Hello and welcome to another Battletech video. Now, this video is in response to the new Battletech 1.1 patch that was recently released. If you watched my previous Battletech review, I highly recommended the game for those who are interested in the Battletech universe or MechWarrior universe and enjoy turn-based combat or turn-based strategy. But I did say that there were some problems that needed to be addressed with the game. Now, with this version 1.1 patch, Hairbrained Schemes seem to have repaired or fixed / addressed these problems. Now, the biggest thing that I noticed is originally pre-patch, I had a lot of memory leaks where after I played for 4 or 5 hours, I would have to restart my computer. Now, with the new patch, I haven't experienced that often. Maybe once every like 12 hours or once every like 5 or 6 sessions, which is really great. They've also added a new set of slider bars for difficulty, and they've also added a button where you can speed up the gameplay. Now let me show you that real quick. So here in the menu, they have gameplay. They have this checkbox right here, speed up combat for single player. I highly recommend playing with this set on. It definitely speeds up each sortie by quite a lot. They've also sped up menus and interactive things within the mech bays. So the game runs much faster than it used to. So you're getting into the combat much faster than before, and when you're in the combat, it's much more faster, which is really great. So I can run multiple missions every time I play a session, which is really great. But they also added new difficulty sliders. Now let me show you that right here. So I'm going to go into campaign, new. Now they have either the standard campaign with basically default settings or custom campaign. Now I'm going to open up a custom campaign. Right here in this yellow box, these settings can only be modified at the game start. So they have this mode right here called Iron Man mode, and it's basically like a roguelike version of Battletech. Iron Man mode restricts you to only one save, and that save, by the way, is only when you exit the game. You can't manually save. You can only save when you exit the game, or the game will automatically save for you whenever actions get taken place. So if you're playing around and you don't like the outcome of a certain turn, you're not allowed to reload to an earlier game. That's not how this works. It literally saves every action that you do, which is really good. It makes it a lot more challenging and a lot more fun. All consequences, including mech loss, mech warrior death, and failed missions are permanent. Running out of funds or failing any priority mission will result in campaign loss. This setting is intended for veterans and those seeking a significant challenge. Now that last part, I still believe that it's still fun even if you're not a veteran to the game. You can do Iron Man mode on your first playthrough, but it is much harder than playing the game normally. Now you have another checkbox for unequipped mechs. What that does is whenever you finally salvage or accumulate enough salvage to create a mech, they come to you empty, which means they have no weapons, no component, or no weapons, no heat sinks or any of that, no ammo, stuff like that. It's just a mech with this armor rating, and then you have to use your own weapons and heat sinks to put into the mech. So that adds also mech may time, repair time, before you can even use a mech that you've assembled, which is it adds some difficulty in the beginning. And then here they have parts for mech assembly. That means originally at its base level it takes 3 salvage to create a mech, but if you wanted, you can increase it to 4 salvage or 5, all the way down to 8. Now 8 salvage to create a mech, that definitely increases the difficulty by a lot. So I don't recommend that for new players. When I played my campaign on Iron mode with all these checked and 8 parts for mech assembly, I didn't fully create a salvage mech by the time I finished the game. I pretty much ran through the game with only the mechs that the game gives you for free. So that added quite a large amount of difficulty. So for new players, I recommend not using 8. Well, 3 is still pretty fun. A new player can play with 3 and Iron Man mode and unequipped and still have a good chance at beating the game. Now, they also added these. These can be changed at any time as long as you're not inside a mission. So enemy force strength, you can have it's normally set to normal, but you can make it easier or harder. So this helps out a lot when you're progressing through the game, especially in the early parts. If you're finding that the game is a bit too difficult, you can make it easier. Or if you want to add more difficulty stars to missions in the beginning, say you want to try and go for 4-star or 5-star missions, you can click it to hard. So this helps you get assault mechs and heavy mechs earlier in the game than normal. So I really like that. I pretty much always play with hard. Unless I'm playing with 8 assembly, then I don't really care about salvaging mechs, so I just go for normal or easy. But it's up to you. This is really fun. Makes the game much more challenging or forgiving. Now you have this right here, Advanced Mech Warriors. So you can its default is normal, but you can make it often or rare. What that means is Ronin and Kickstarter backer Mech Warrior pilots will either more often show up in your hiring bay or more rarely. I click it to rare, but I haven't really noticed any big difference in difficulty of the game, because most of the time all the mech warriors, they're randomly they're random, what you're gonna see anyway. Mech destruction, what this means is if your mechs get destroyed via center torso destruction, you lose your mech. So that rarely happens, so clicking it doesn't really matter. I always click it on, but I haven't, to this day, I haven't lost a mech via a center torso destruction. And primarily that's because if things are getting really bad, I just eject that pilot anyway. But yeah, that's pretty fun to click on. Now, contract payment, that determines, you can, that it's normally set to normal, but you can make it more generous or more stingy. And all this does is it changes the amount of C builds that you can get on that slider bar when you're choosing missions. So yeah, that could help in the beginning, especially if you click at the generous and you're having problems with funds, especially if you're playing with 8 mech salvage. This helps out a lot. So if you are going to play with 8 salvage, I highly recommend this. That way you can pay your maintenance fees for every month. But you know, you can go ahead and change that at will whenever you want in between missions or before missions. Then you have salvage. This is the same thing as contract payment, but it's for the salvage slider bar. It starts at normal, but you can click it to generous, which means you have a possibility of having a slider bar give you more salvage, and also stingy, where it gives you less options. So when I play with stingy, a lot of the times if I go to the max for salvage, it'll be like 3 out of 8 or 4 out of 11, and very rarely will I see 5 out of 12 or more. But I mean, yeah, it's up to you how you want to do that. If you're going with 8 salvage anyway, stingy, generous, normal, that doesn't really matter anyway. Lethality. If your mech warriors are incapacitated in combat, they will always be killed. Now, this is this can be really dangerous. Now, luckily, from what I've seen, this does not affect your main character. It only affects mech warriors that you've hired. But yeah, if you're gonna play with lethality, make sure you pay attention to your mech warrior's HP underneath their portraits, and if it starts to get really low, and if they're unstable due to stability damage, I highly recommend ejecting. Now, I've been playing with it and I think it's really fun. It adds that little bit of tension, especially early on when mech warriors that you hire probably only have 3 HP anyway. And then no rare salvage. This means that you cannot find plus and plus plus or plus 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 weapons and equipment via salvage, and they can only be obtained via purchasing through the store. So that's pretty fun, but it can affect getting those really cool items like Heat Bank Plus and stuff like that. So click that at your own discretion. So they've added that, which is really great. Now they've also added a couple other things, and they've changed some other things as well. So let me open up the patch notes. One of the things that they've changed is they've balanced a lot of the weapons. So PPC heat generation reduced to 35 from 40, things like that, or large laser reduced from 18, or reduced to 18 from 30. So large lasers generate a lot less heat than before, like almost half. So all these changes were added in order to balance the game, which helps out a lot. But some changes that I personally don't like is they changed the stability ratings for bigger mechs. Let's see if I can find that patch notes for it. Let's see, assault. All right, here we go. So as you can see here, assault mech stability increased to 200 from 100. So it takes double the amount of stability damage to knock over a mech. And then stability recovery increased to 1.6 from 1.0. So what that means is on their turn, they're gonna reduce the stability bar that they have on them by 1.6. So they recover from stability a lot faster. Now, when you combine an assault mech with guarded from bulwark or just hitting the guard button, it becomes very hard to knock down an assault mech. So this is one change that I personally don't like, but some people do. But aside from that, for the most part, I like most of what they've done with this patch. And because of the patch, I can now personally recommend this game to anyone who's interested in turn-based combat. You don't have to necessarily be completely interested in Battletech or MechWarrior. This makes the game much funner for people outside and want to learn more about Battletech and have never experienced the game, as long as they like turn-based strategy games. Yeah, the game is really great. I give it a high recommendation. So I hope you enjoyed this review, and until next time, take care.